We lived in a new house in a very rural area with bears, moose, etc. Husband was traveling internationally, and I was at home in the winter with an 8-month-old baby. Woke up one morning to let the dog out, and the dog got interested in some boot tracks. Big boot tracks that led from the forest to my shed, to the side window, and then to the back window of the house. The dog had not barked and our alarm wasn't tripped, but someone had walked from the woods and stared in my windows. Came home one day and noticed large, size 13 or so boot tracks circling my house and at each window. Considering I live in a rural home with my 3 and 6-year-old wife and a golden retriever, I was a little worked up. Spent half of that day looking at security systems and trying to track where the peeping Tom came from. There are no houses for at least a mile. Wife comes home and tells me that she used my boots to feed the birds and occasionally check on the kids through the windows. My heart, man. No kidding. That would have left me utterly terrified until the final explanation. I spent 6 months living alone in a cabin near the end of a dirt road in central New Hampshire. Nearest neighbors were a quarter-mile or so up or down the road. It's an area where people definitely keep to themselves. I had all sorts of animal visitors, bears on the porch, you name it, but never random people around. One morning, I went out to my car to go to work. It was spring and we had a late frost. On the rear window of my truck, someone had written, "I watch you," with their fingers in the frost. I never had an actual problem the rest of my time there, but that freaked me out. I lived deep in the woods. I was hanging out one day when suddenly I heard all of this commotion and what sounded like a lot of people yelling or in pain, all in my front yard. Looked out the window, it was a herd of cows. 30% of them were getting it on. No idea whose they were or where they came from. They left after about 2 hours. That's the most bizarre one I've read so far. There was an old news story about a couple methed out kids who got lost. Kept calling 911, couldn't zero in on their location. Kid described group of people he saw in the distance. Tried calling to them, said they ignored him. It was cows. My parents do for the majority of the year. They're out in Nowhereville on a farm in Central America. Aside from all the snakes and tarantulas that make their way into your house, probably the time someone broke in while they were asleep and robbed them. They didn't wake up but found things stolen, including their firearms. They upped their security like crazy after that. For me, when I first moved in from the city into the suburbs, the creepiest thing was when foxes scream. The first time, I thought a woman was being murdered in the woods behind my house. But when I shone a light on it, I found a fox sitting there shrieking its head off. I could understand then why in my culture foxes are thought to take the form of women. That scared the hell out of me. I found a shack in the woods about 4 miles behind my place. Approaching it, I saw some things spray painted on it. Roses, pentagrams, etc. I woke up to it and there was someone inside. Not moving, not speaking. He was just staring at the blank wall on the inside of this shack. This was on my family's property. Obviously I didn't stay long, but I noticed on my sprint out there were some deep but small holes dug around the area. Still scares me to go to the place. The shack has been burned since I last checked, and I still don't know who it was in there or who burnt it. I went for a late night walk up the hill behind my place so I could watch the stars. I foolishly turned down company because I really wanted some peace with my thoughts and to soak in the beauty on my own. There was basically nothing for miles in all directions and zero light pollution, so it was truly stunning and dark. I was out there for about 40 minutes when I eventually got a nervous feeling that raised all the hairs on my arms and sent a surging chill up my back. I hauled my ass back to the house like a kid runs up the basement stairs from an imaginary monster and slammed the door behind me. The next morning, I found out I drifted down the road, maybe 3/4 of a mile away, was attacked by a mountain lion the same night. I've heard several people mention that feeling in different ways, but all I know is, when you feel it, move. I'm so glad you're alright. Sorry that drifter was attacked. Don't live there anymore, but I remember being inside the house with my parents at night when we heard this extremely loud scream. It sounded like a woman screaming her lungs out, a primal fear scream. Hard to explain. We thought someone got stabbed or saw someone die. It's the fox again, isn't it? Our family and even the neighbors went outside as fast as we could. All we saw was a lone fox running into the woods. Next day, I searched for fox calls, and sure enough, they make this weird ass sound. My parents are divorced and live in separate places, but my dad lives in the wilderness. I wanted to explore, and so I did. I was walking for about half an hour and I see an open area with a bunch of dead squirrels and deer. The strange thing is, they hadn't been eaten, just scratches and small teeth marks. When I lived in coal country, there was one area in the woods that would always have a ton of dead animals, not eaten. The area smelled foul. Someone told me it's because the mine was never properly closed, and so the tailing just leached into the little creek that ran through there and poisoned some animals. I don't know if that's true. I'm currently living in Japan, just near a vacation town named Yufuin. A very pleasant place to be honest, but isolated and kind of deserted. Sometimes I feel like I'm the only person living there. One night, I was walking with my friend to pick up some snacks, toilet paper, along with other miscellaneous things. Because the load was kind of heavy for me, my friend and I both held the bag. She got the right handle and I got the left, but the sidewalk was narrow and we didn't want to walk side by side and take up all the walking space for others. So I walked in front of my friend, and then I saw a man in a cap, jogging and getting very close to us. He seemed kind of disoriented, and as I have mentioned, the sidewalk was narrow. I tried to avoid bumping into him, but then my friend said, "What are you doing?" I'm avoiding the jogging man. He was literally brushing shoulders with us. What jogging man? That jogging man. I turned around to show her the jogging man, since he wasn't that fast, but I saw no one, no jogging man, no heavy breathing, no sound of sneakers brushing against the brick road, literally nothing. I was the only one who could see him. Sometimes when I walk alone at night, I could still sense the heavy breathing of the jogging man from somewhere so far away. I guess the takeaway from this is that cows and foxes are on something. If you've watched this far, I hope you've enjoyed. Please rate and make a suggestion for what post I should do next.